Looking for these better days.
It is Thursday, May 14th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. It was a night of overtime action in the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs. Cavaliers, a 117-113 win over the Pistons as Cleveland takes a 3-2 series lead. And the Avalanche storm from behind in the closing minutes, force overtime, and they win 4-3. Ending their series against Minnesota 4-1. David Behrman joins me on this episode of Better Day, presented by FanDuel. Behrman, very excited because today is first round action at the PGA Championship. We did a full preview of this tournament on yesterday's pod. You can read that newsletter up on betterday.com, but Behrman's going to give you some of his favorite outrights so that if you're listening to this pod, maybe after the first round has officially gotten underway, there might still be an opportunity to get in on some of these golfers for maybe an outright win or a top 5, top 10 type of bet. But Behrman, let's start in the NBA playoffs where the Cavs put together a complete performance, James Harden scoring 30 points, and they rally from behind to force overtime and beat the Pistons 117-113. This is despite Detroit leading by as many as 15 points in the first half. And even with a 9-point lead with a little over 2 minutes remaining, Cleveland was able to come back and win. How impressed were you by Cleveland's performance, and does it change your opinion on the remainder of this series?
You got to be impressed by Cleveland. I think this was one of the better performances of the postseason. First of all, you're on the road in a hard environment, down 15 points. You could easily pack it in, and all of a sudden you go home and you can save your season there. Down 9 points with 2.5 minutes to go. Not only did they come back, but they had a chance to win it. When I say complete performance, you got 30 from James Harden, as you said, his best game of the postseason. 19 from Mobley, 16 from Jared Allen, 21 from Mitchell. And then even on the bench, 20 from Max Strauss. They played as well as they've played all season long, top to bottom, where they got complimentary performances up and down. As for Detroit, Scott, I don't know if there's a more crushing defeat that we've seen in the postseason this year, other than maybe Orlando with the chance in the first round to eliminate this same Pistons team in Game 6 at home, blowing a 20-point lead and not scoring pretty much in half the fourth quarter and missing the chance. But in that case, at least Orlando still had another chance. You, Detroit, now you got to go on the road and try to win this game to bring it back to Detroit. If you're a Detroit Pistons fan, you had this game. You were up 9. It's as disappointing it's going to get. You're the 1 seed. You got to defend home court right there. Now you got to go on the road to Cleveland. Very impressed by the Cavs. I think you and I have discussed this before. I think either one of these teams is a big underdog to the New York Knicks the way the Knicks are playing. But hand it to the Cavs for going on the road and taking care of business and doing what they need to do to get this game back home.
Cade Cunningham with 39 points in the loss. I know you had been playing some Cade unders, but now when you look ahead to Game 6, a must-win game, obviously do or die for Detroit, how do you want to approach Cade Cunningham props after seeing this performance?
You know, it's weird, Scott. And this goes back to the days of us, growing up watching Magic and Michael and Bird. And when those guys went off for 40 and 50 points, the teams didn't necessarily win the games. It was when they were facilitating scoring and facilitating, with assists and getting complimentary stuff from a Scottie Pippen or Robert Parrish or Kevin McHale or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, getting the secondary scoring. When Cade Cunningham is scoring between 25 and 30 points, the Pistons are winning games. When he's got to go off for 39, and you look up and down that roster, like, was there anybody else who played well tonight for the Detroit Pistons? Tobias Harris had his second straight game hitting his under. He only had 13 points after that huge run of hitting overs that he had. Thompson only had 6. Nothing on the bench worth noting. So you wonder who is going to step up for this Pistons team. As far as what you said about Cunningham, I had played his under every single game in this series. And listen, it was 4-0 entering tonight. The number did dip to 26.5, so I had a little bit of a hesitation, but I didn't expect him to score 39, and I'm not sure Detroit expected him to score 39, and it was a one-man show, but it worked early. He scored 20 in the first half. They had a lead at halftime. You have to find that second scorer. Orlando couldn't do it. Other teams couldn't do it. You see the Lakers went through the same thing. Minnesota the other night, if you can't find that second scorer, they're just going to let one guy beat you, and they're going to beat you on the other end.
Well, we did cash a best bet in this game, and that was the Pistons to win the first quarter. Detroit was minus a half a point in the first quarter. We just played them in the money line, and they won the first quarter 29-27 because first quarter is where it's at. here in these playoffs. We've been crushing it all playoffs long. We continued it last night. It was the perfect system, coming off of a straight up loss and then favored in the next game. Now, in these playoffs, in that situation, coming off of a loss and you're favored, you are now 20-6 straight up. 19-6-1 against the spread in the first quarter. Now, it doesn't apply to game number 6 because the Cavaliers are favored in game number 6. And sure, you can look at Detroit playing with desperation and maybe they come out hot. But right now, the Cavs up on FanDuel, 3.5-point favorites in game number 6 coming up tomorrow. And it's interesting. The spread in game 1 and game 2 in Detroit was Detroit minus 3.5. In game number 3, with the zag in play because Cleveland was down 0-2, Cleveland was 5-point favorites. They win. The spread then goes to Cleveland minus 3.5 with the zigzag going in favor of Detroit. Cleveland wins. The series is then a 3.5-point spread in last night's game, in game number 5 in favor of Detroit, but it was pushed to 4 and even 4.5 at some books by the time we got the tip off. Now seeing the line 3.5 in favor of Cleveland at home, the market's making no adjustment whatsoever, David, based off of what we have seen in these playoffs. Is that line right in your mind?
I don't think it's right. I actually expected Cleveland to be 4.5, 5-point favorite. You have a crushing loss by Detroit at home. Now you're going back to Cleveland for game 6. This should be a situation where Cleveland closes this series out. I expect them to close it out. I think Cleveland has played better basketball the entire series, top to bottom. Obviously, it was 2-2 heading in to the game on Wednesday night, but Detroit played better until they blew it in the end. If I had to project, I would have projected this at Cleveland minus 4.5 and 5. So I think you're getting a little bit of an advantage with Cleveland at minus 3.5, and who knows where the money comes in. Scott, I'm going to throw it right back to you. Do you think you're getting a little bit of an edge there, considering how this series has been played?
I think you're right. It should be Cleveland a little bit heavier of a favorite, but I think the zigzag's probably baked in, which is why
Mm-hmm.
it didn't go up to 4.5 because of the desperation spot for Detroit with their season on the line. I think the total was really interesting because even though Cleveland has scored more points at home, right? And if you look at their net rating, they've been one of the more impressive teams at home. Their offensive rating, averaging 120.4 offensive rating at home here in these playoffs. That is right behind the Knicks and the Thunder in terms of the best offensive ratings in the playoffs. Like that's at home though. So we're talking 120.4 points per 100 possessions is incredible for Cleveland at home. Despite that, in a situation where you want to avoid game 7, in a situation where Detroit has to lock it down in order to keep this game close, I actually like the under. I actually lean towards the under. Now, you could have gotten a better number when it opened up. Now it's down to 209.5 up on FanDuel. I'd monitor where the money's going on the total more so than the side, David.
I do agree with that. If you look at the overall series so far, you're talking about 222 when the game went to overtime, 216, 212, 100 and 204. There have not been a lot of high scoring games. You throw out tonight 230 because it went to overtime. I do agree with you that you're looking at 209, 210. It is a desperation game. These teams have had struggles at times scoring, as we've seen. This isn't Oklahoma City throwing out 130 points or the Knicks throwing out 140 points. I do like that there. I'm wondering where that number is going to finish before the night gets out.
So I was just looking just out of curiosity because, we know that when the later a series gets, the more towards the under you want to look, right? Game 6s and game
Mhm.
7s go under. I just looked at the history of the NBA playoffs since the 2021 season, just in game 6 only. So only in game 6s, we are 21-17 to the under. So, you're 56% to the under or so, right? Now, if we're looking at, we want to go, last 10 years. So let's go since the 2015 season. It's the same. It's about 55% at 43-38 to the under. So it's not overwhelming, but it is something. Now, if we look at game 7s also, you're going to see a major under trend because game 7s go under. But yeah, strong lean for me on the under. Obviously, you want to shop around, find the best number you can on Pistons Cavs game number 6 coming up tomorrow. We have no NBA on the schedule for tonight, David, but we do have 2 NHL games tonight. Last night, much like the NBA playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs had an overtime game, and it was the Colorado Avalanche scoring 2 goals in the final 4 minutes of the game to force overtime. And I tweeted something out after Colorado won that game in overtime last night, David. I said the Avalanche are inevitable. It does it feel that way with this Avs team that no matter how many goals they're down, no matter how late in the game, they're just inevitable.
Yeah, I absolutely completely agree. And I'm seeing a lot of similar things with the Avs that I saw the last 2 years, watching every single game of the Florida Panthers run to the Cup championship, where it didn't matter what the score was. It could be 4-1, it could be 4-2, it could be 3-0. The Panthers were never out of it. And when you're looking at the Avs, not only did they score 2 goals in the third period to force overtime, this team was down 3-0. They
Yep.
were down 3-0 after the first period, and it didn't even phase them. They score a goal right away in the second period, and they score the 2 goals in the third. This is a team that knows what their end goal is. It's built to win a championship. They're the best team in the West, potentially the best team in the league, throwing in the Carolina Panthers and what they've done. This has been a series that's been a lot closer than people think it is. But at the same time, the way Colorado has been playing, they outplayed Minnesota, but at the same time, they had to earn it. That first game was absolutely wild,
Mm-hmm.
where no pun intended,
Mm-hmm.
back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You took the 2-0 series lead out to Minnesota, got your butts kicked in game 3, and you completely forgot it happened. They dominated the Wild in game 4 and rallied. Now listen, you're up 3-1 in the series and down 3-0 in that game. Now you don't want to blow the chance to close that at home, but at the same time, there's just no quitting this team. You're down 3-0 and you go steal that game, you steal the series, it's over, and you move on to the Western Conference Finals. I still think you're on a collision course between the Hurricanes and the Avalanche, is what you should have with the 2 best teams in hockey this year. I like your word inevitable because they are that good. Now they're going to face a really, really good either Vegas or Ducks team, and they're going to face a really good Hurricanes team potentially in the Cup final. But it's very, very similar to what you saw with the Panthers the last couple of years when it was just they're just not going to die when you think they are.
Yeah, they give up a goal 30 seconds into the game, and then Nick Foligno scores twice in that first period. The third goal was just a horrific rebound allowed by Mackenzie Blackwood, to the point where Jared Bednar, the Avalanche coach, pulled him at the end of the first period. And Scott Wedgwood came in the start of the second period, and he didn't have to do much work because the ice was completely tilted the entire second and third period. Like, if all you watched was the second and third period, you would have thought, like, wait a minute, are the Avalanche up 9-0? Like, this is the most lopsided game I've ever seen. Like, they just dominated all of the possession. And it was just because they were playing from behind, and Minnesota was just desperately trying to hold on. But it's so difficult with as good as this Colorado team is. They scored that first goal without even pulling the goaltender. They didn't need it. It was just incredible. And then, of course, Nathan MacKinnon fits the puck in the tiniest of spaces
And
to tie the game.
not only did you see it tonight where the guy got pulled right away, but even in game 3, the minute that the Avalanche fell behind, I believe it was also 3-0 in that game. They pulled the goalie then too. So it'd be interesting to see what happens, and came back. It'd be interesting to see what happens because you pulled the guy in game 3. It's not like he played a good game 1 where they won 9-6. So didn't pull him in game 1, pulled him in game 3, came right back and won game 4 and pulled him in game 5. So sometimes having 2 goalies is a good problem. Sometimes it's not. It'd be interesting to see how the Avs manage this moving forward because in some respects the Avs had a quick hook in 2 of the games, but then they allowed the guy to allow 6 goals in game 1. So hey, give the credit to the coach for managing this the proper way because he's 3-0 when doing so.
Yeah. He's an incredible coach, and the Avalanche are an incredible team. We have 2 games on the ice tonight. It is game number 5 between the Canadiens and the Sabres. The series is tied at 2 games apiece. Buffalo is a minus 120 favorite up on FanDuel, total of 5.5. And, I thought this series before it started was going to be a 6 or 7 game series. It's the reason why I bet the Sabres in game number 4 is because I was thinking to myself, hey, if I believe that this is going to be a long series, then I don't think a team is going to go up 3-1. And I backed Buffalo on the road, and they got the 3-2 victory to even up this series. Now they return home where the crowd was, absolutely electric, and they win that first game in the series, but then they get outplayed in the second game of the series. Can the crowd will them to a victory tonight, the most important game of the series? Because we know teams that go up 3-2 after a 2-2 series go on to win X amount of times. I tend to believe that this is going to be kind of similar to game number 4, and it's going to be a very close one-score game. I might be interested in just laying the juice on Montreal plus a goal and a half.
I think, you look at the series, it's been close. Now, you would say it's as close as any series, but then the Canadian series that they just played against Tampa was even closer, having every single game, one whole game. So, whereas I lean Buffalo in this one, I think the home crowd's going to be the difference. Buffalo is a little bit better, playing a little bit better. You just can't count out Canadians because push comes to shove. This team has played, what's it now, 9 out of 11 games have been one-score games, and the other ones have been two-score. There was one game that wasn't 2 scores or fewer. So this Canadians team knows how to play the nitty-gritty game that it takes to win. I just think the Canadians needed to win that game at home to have that 3-1 lead going back to Buffalo. Now it's 2-2. No one has an edge here, considering you basically, when all said and done, it's a best-of-3 series with the team that had the most points having 2 home games. I just lean to the home team, and then you wonder whether the Sabres can finish down the road. But by no surprise would I be if the Canadians won this one.
No, the game number 4 was the first game of this series that actually went under with the 3-2 finish. The 2 games in Buffalo were both 6 goals being scored. There was 8 goals being scored in the first game in Montreal in game number 3, and then the under in game number 4. Do we go back to the well with an over tonight? It's at 5.5 juice to the over.
I'm not going to lay the juice with that one, so that's what would stay me off of it. But I do think that there's value there in terms of you've seen the 6 goals, and the 8 goals. But I do think it tightens up. You saw it tighten up in game 5 and game 4, and we saw what the Canadians and Lightning did in the first series. It was unders galore. So the juice is going to send me off of it, but push comes to shove, I would go over it.
Also tonight, it is a closeout chance for the Vegas Golden Knights with a 3-2 lead over the Anaheim Ducks. Game 6 tonight in Anaheim, where VGK is a slight minus 114 favorite, total of 6.5, juiced to the under. Some will make the argument, and I have been, told this because I made an argument for Vegas winning this series, but I've been told many, many times about how Anaheim has outplayed Vegas on the ice. Anaheim's been the better team in the majority of the games this season, so how could we bet against Anaheim? Well, to me, it oftentimes comes down to experience, and Vegas just has all of the experience. And that's why they're able to win close games. That's why they're able to win in overtime multiple times throughout these playoffs. Experience matters, David, when you get to these clutch moments.
It does, and the series has been tight. You're looking at the fact that 2 2-goal games and 2 1-goal games. The only game that was a blowout was Game 3 when Vegas took it right from the start and won 6-2. When it comes down to it, and you're looking at overtime games like you had in Game 5, and you're looking at one-score games either way, experience absolutely does matter. Vegas is the small favorite on the road in Game 6. I do personally believe that they will get it done, and for those who have said that the Ducks may have been outplaying the Golden Knights, at the end of the day, they didn't win the games they needed to, and Vegas is the better team, whether they played it or not. Now you're in a situation where, hey, maybe Vegas thinks that they've escaped so far. They are the better team, and I think they get it done on the road in Anaheim. But listen, every game has been close. Experience does matter. You saw it in Game 5, and I think you'll see it in Game 6.
Here's all you need to know, okay? For anybody who wants to tweet at me and tell me how wrong I am for picking Vegas and how Anaheim's outplayed them, look at the box score. Look at how many shots on goal they've had. Literally, I mean, I have trolls up in my mentions talking about how I'm just a box score guy and I don't watch the games. And okay, you want to talk box scores, David? Let's talk box scores. I like to look at the analytic numbers behind the NHL games. I like to look at expected numbers. I like to look at possession numbers and things like that. And sure, Anaheim has had the better of the possession at times, but a lot of analytic websites track things like your Corsi percentage or Fenwick possessions metrics. I like to look at Fenwick because I think unblocked shot attempts factor more. I also look at, high danger scoring chances, other things like that, and expected goals percentages and things like that. Well, in this series, at 5 versus 5, forget about power plays. I don't want to talk about power plays. At 5 versus 5, the expected goals for the Vegas Golden Knights, 10.48. The expected goals for the Anaheim Ducks, 10.82. This is an even series. It is an even series. Now you want to look at, oh, well, there's been more power plays on one side, which is why, one team has had better numbers. Actually, let's look at all situations, including power plays. Expected goals for Vegas, 16.71. Expected goals for Anaheim, 15.96. In favor of Vegas, still very even. Again, experience
Yeah,
matters. And to me, the experience is clearly, even though Anaheim does have some guys that have a cup experience, most notably the Rangers that have come over, but I think that this is Vegas' series, and I think they close it out tonight.
it is. And when you have a close series like this that's going down to the wire on a couple of nights, it is going to be the experience that wins it out. And let's just say, hey, you're right, guys. Anaheim has outplayed them by a little bit. Anaheim has the better this, the better that. They could have, should have, would have. At the end of the day, it's the team that wins the game that matters. And Vegas has more wins than Anaheim does. And is it because of some of the advanced metrics? Is it because of the experience? At the end of the day, they've got it done, and they got it done in Game 5. And that right now is the only difference in this series is the fact that Vegas won Game 5, and they have the chance to close out in Game 6, which I believe they do.
Now at McDonald's, a sausage McMuffin is only $1.50. So stop dreaming about breakfast sausage and go get it. Get more value on the under $3 menu.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher for delivery.
Let's shift the gears and get into Major League Baseball. We have a slew of day games today. You guys know I love my unders in day games, especially with teams looking to avoid sweeps. So we can get into plenty of discussion about that. But here's your schedule for this Thursday day slate in Major League Baseball. Rockies at the Pirates. Chase Dollander for the Rockies, and going for the Pirates is Mason Montgomery. Pirates heavy, minus 181 favorites. Nationals at the Reds, and it's going to be for the Nats. Foster Griffin, who I faded before and actually didn't win. Chase Burns on the mound for the Cincinnati Reds. Cincinnati minus 163 favorites. Tigers are at the Mets. Kiter Montero for the Tigers. Nolan McLean, the young stud for the Mets. Mets minus 175. The Marlins, red hot Marlins, at the Twins. It's going to be Connor Prelip for the Minnesota Twins, and making his season debut, Braxton Garrett for the Miami Marlins. Whenever a pitcher's making his season debut, we always like to look at the spring, rehab starts. We like to know how deep is that pitcher going to go, all of that fun stuff. So just be cautious on Braxton Garrett. Padres are at the Brewers. Griffin Canning for the Padres. Kyle Harrison going for Milwaukee. Mariners are at the Astros. Luis Castillo in his 0-4 record and 6.57 ERA on the mound for the Mariners. Mike Burrows coming off of a decent start on the bump for the Astros. Burrows, who had been, pretty bad this season, had a real good performance at Cincinnati his last time out, maybe some momentum for him. And the last day game is the Cardinals at the A's from Sacramento. Mike McGreevy on the mound for the Cardinals, and for the A's is Jacob Lopez. And then you have a couple of night games on the schedule for tonight as well. But we love day baseball. Also today, David, first round action at the PGA Championship. Let me ask you, how many outrights did you place? How many top fives, top tens? What does your portfolio look like here for this weekend?
I'm all in. I have 3 main outrights. I have a little sprinkle on 2 other outrights. So in totality, I have 5 outrights. One of them is somebody, we'll get to the math in a minute, is who I took actually earlier this year. So I had one coming in and added 4 this week. The one top 5 is the obvious Scotty Scheffler one. I have him top 5 because you can't play the plus 380 number. It just doesn't pay with 150 guys in the field. Top 5, that's what he does every single week. I have 3 top 10s, and I have 5 top 20s. 3 head-to-head matchups, and 2 first-round leaders, a partridge and a pear tree. Across the board there, Scott. I got them all.
So what are you looking for in the first round today? So if someone hasn't placed an outright yet, they're going to watch the first round action today and then maybe look at the leaderboard and decide who they want to back after the first round to win this event. What are you looking for in the first round?
Looking to see if the overnight rain that coming there is going to soften up the course, and you'll see what the numbers look like in the morning. This is not the longest course. We're used to major championships being 77, 7,800 yards. This is a tad under 7,400. A lot of dog legs as opposed to just bomb and gouge. If you bomb, sometimes you'll hit it too far. So want to see how soft it's playing, because the biggest difference between this course and some of the other major championships that we've seen is the approaches are going to be a lot more difficult. Even though the course is shorter, which would make, in theory, the approaches shorter as well, the greens are ridiculous. Think Augusta National greens, a little slower than Augusta. You're not doing pool tables like Augusta, but bigger. And the runoffs and just the undulations, and sometimes there's 2 tiers, 3 tiers, 4 different quadrants in the greens. Depending on how much water this course takes overnight, you might see some very good low scores in the morning. So you could get, in theory, bigger numbers for guys in the afternoon. Take a Scotty Scheffler, take a Cam Young. Their numbers might be longer than they started because somebody goes out there and shoots a 64 or 65 in the morning. So pay attention to how many low scores you get out there, because it will eventually dry up because it's not going to rain during the day. And you're going to have a situation where it might play slightly easier in the morning. So you're going to be, if you're looking at over-unders, maybe play a little bit of the morning guys versus the late guys. But I want to see how the course plays being wet. We're not talking tons of rain, but we're talking enough moisture that making a short course a little bit easier, because if the greens are hard and fast, this course is really difficult. If it's not, and it's a sponge and you can hit those greens and spin the ball back, then you're going to look at somebody winning this tournament with 17 or 18 under par.
Do you like betting the round score when it comes to golfers? Like you watch Scotty play the whole tournament, and then maybe you watch him play the first round, and then you bet his second round score or something like that?
I will dive into those, but what I like to do is I like to bet the round matchups. I don't have any matchups for the first round. I usually don't have any matchups whatsoever for first round scores, just because you don't know how the course is going to play. You don't know who's seen it, who hasn't, who's practiced, who's not. I do dabble in second round head-to-head matchups because I like to see what happens in the first round, and then I'm all in on the third and fourth round. I play a lot of head-to-heads. The cuts made after 36 holes. Then you look at the shots gained data. You see who's putting well, who's approaching well, who's getting off the tee. You look for advantages of looking for certain players matched up against others, and the books have done a good job of expanding the markets to allow you more than just the two guys who are playing together on Saturday and Sunday. That's what it used to be, where every book had the exact same matchups. It's these two players. Now, you'll get those two players. Anybody who's in a pairing is going to be matched up. But a lot of the books have expanded that, where they've put certain players with others, and you can find edges there where the books may not see what you see. So I do look at the shots gained data, especially after Friday night. And I jump in, and usually Saturday, Scott, is my biggest day when it comes to individual head-to-head matchups and potentially some over-unders with round scores. I like to see the difference over the weekend is you got to look where the pin placements are, and you got to know the courses. That's different with Augusta and Pebble than it would be a course like this that you'd only see once every 5 years, where the pin placements are. Obviously, the USGA likes to set it up on Thursday and Friday to murder you, and on Saturday to have moving day. PGA doesn't do as much of that. They like to actually see people score on these courses. But I'm very big in the placement bets before we start. And then what I'll do as we go live is I'll do some head-to-heads, and then I'll take some live futures. I'll grab a couple of players that I think are getting bigger prices because maybe being a little bit overlooked. Maybe, a guy is 7 strokes back, but he's playing like he should be 5 strokes back, and jump on a big number. Cam Young was one of those numbers last week on Saturday. He was 25-1 entering Saturday because he didn't have a very good start to the event. And next thing you know, he was, T2 before you blinked an eye. Didn't win it, but he had a really good price that I jumped on at 25-1 last Saturday.
Well, we're on Cam Young to win this event. Do you co-sign?
I co-signed. Cam Young is the one I was talking about. I had Cam Young I got him at 20-1 once he won the Players Championship. I was waiting for him to get that big event. He got the big event. He won the Players. I got him at 20-1. He's down to 15-1.
Bang. Let's get this winner. Let's cash this. He is David Behrman. Make sure you guys tune in to the Betting with Behrman podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player, part of the Believe Podcast Network. You can make sure to check out the Betting with Behrman newsletter. Head to David's website, follow him on Twitter as well, and you can find out all the information. He is great when it comes to the golf bets, the outrights, continue to cash. Lots of information available up at Betting with Behrman, and we are frequent guests on that podcast as well. And you guys know, if you're listening on this podcast feed, hey, we did a simulcast last week, so plenty more of those to come where we'll have simulcast episodes on both feeds. So we're looking forward to that. David, appreciate the time. Appreciate you joining us. Enjoy the Left Coast, Best Coast here this weekend. Good luck with your bets. As a reminder, you guys could learn how to become a Better Day Insider or Premium member by heading to our homepage at betterday.com. For David Behrman, I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.